Good evening, everybody. How you doing? I'm back here again with, first of all, with my cat. She's doing something strange over there. I don't know if you can hear her or not. Anyway, I'm back with part 3 of my future modification series. And I thought this, in this section, this video would be about other piercings, so to speak. And I've decided to break it into... What are you doing, madam? Break it into 2 separate parts. This first part will be probably the shortest of all of the videos. It'll just be about more mundane, normal piercings. What are you doing, madam? It'll just be about more mundane, normal piercings. Then the second part, which I'll do at some other point, will be about slightly more unusual, experimental piercings that are probably not a good idea, and I may never do them. They're just ideas I have. Whereas this video will be more about piercings I fully expect to do at some point further in the future. Might not be any time in the near future, but it is on the cards. Right, madam. Just so you know, I'm not making it up. You've been a right pillock. Anyway, just so yeah, this will be the shortest video of the lot, as there is literally pretty much 2 piercings I really want to talk about, and that's about it. And she's attacking the door now. We're doing well. This is going brilliantly. So yeah, let's get started. So the actual piercings I plan on getting at some point. Probably not in the near future, but they are things I have planned for further down the line when my situation allows for them. And the first one would be lip piercings of some description. Now, I'm not 100% certain. Ever since I was quite young, sort of when I was a teenager. Oh, you're biting my foot. Ever since, as I say, sort of mid-teenagers, when I first really started getting into this stuff, I always really liked the idea of actually having a full lip plate. And it's something that I've carried with me ever since, and I've always loved the idea of it. And and actually I have a story I might tell one day when I was very young. The very first time I was actually introduced to actual lip plates. It's an interesting little story. Maybe I'll tell at some point. I'll make another video about that. But I haven't decided 100% whether I would have a plug in my bottom lip or my top lip. I have seen videos and pictures of both on sort of from tribal communities. I spend a lot of time looking at and researching tribal communities when I was very young, and that's where a lot of very young, teenage years, and that's where a lot of my inspiration came. And while I wouldn't want a plate in both lips, I would like one in either or. And over the years I've flipped backwards and forwards between the two. And if I were ever to go full bore with it, I would stretch them. I would like to see just how big I could actually stretch it. I've always fantasized about having at least a 5 to 6 inch plate in my lip, which I'm cracking out the big earring again. Hopefully you can see that in the video. That's just about 4 inches. That is slightly under 4 inches. So just to give you a sort of size reference. It's something like that. Hopefully you can see me when I'm in the middle of the video. I can't actually see the screen of the camera. Yeah, hopefully that'll give you a rough idea of... That's the sort of minimum size I've always fantasized of having a plate in my lip. So, I think realistically, if I was to go for it, I would be more likely to go for a bottom lip plate rather than a top lip plate. But a particular picture I have seen from years and years ago, that one picture in particular that stuck out with me, was this. I don't know even where it was actually from. The picture itself, good God, cat. The picture itself was a very old picture, and it didn't have any credits or anything along with it. It was just something I stumbled across online. It was of a of an elderly individual from presumably some tribal community who had an enormous plate in their top lip. But I have to see how I can think exactly how to explain this. But rather than having the jewellery... Just wait for that noise outside to stop. Okay, just rather than have a full plate that took up the entire jewellery, it was a plug that it sat nicely in the bottom of the actual stretched tissue, but it left a gap at the top, so the person could actually still talk and eat through the top. It's the one and only time I've ever actually seen anything quite like that, and it has always stuck with me ever since. The way it worked was that the tissue had stretched down, obviously, and so I guess the plate sat about here, and so the inside of the actual piercing, from the weight of the jewellery, had actually been pulled down and essentially functioned as a functional top lip. And the person was still presumably able to talk more or less normally, and it still allowed them to eat with having the plug in, which I thought was, like I say, a very interesting idea. So I've never seen that before, and it's the only one picture I've ever seen of that, and it was, like I say, something that very much stuck with me. But realistically, if I were to go with a very big lip, I would, it would probably be bottom. It'd probably be a lower lip plate that I would go for. Just because I think that would be slightly more comfortable overall. Either way, having an enormous lip plate would be quite a learning experience. It would take much more than anything else because of how important your mouth is to your daily activities. I mean, we talk all day long, and obviously we have to eat, and having a big plug in either top or bottom lip would be quite a learning experience. And that's part of the reason I would also like to do it. Don't know what she's doing now. She's back again. And that would be part of the reason I'd be interested in doing it, just to see exactly how much it affects day-to-day life, and then coming up with ways of dealing with that and adjusting to it in order to continue to function normally. What are you doing? In order to continue functioning normally with, obviously, a radically altered mouth. Yeah. So like I say, that will be a long time in the future if I ever do that. I have no interest in having just a small plug or a small piercing in my lips. That's never interested me at all. I have had lip piercings in the past with the intention of stretching them up very big, but I had one that was pierced that caused some problems with my gum, and so I took that out. And I actually had one pierced at I think it was an 8 gauge, about a 3.2 millimeter, and it just never really healed properly. It developed a lot of scar tissue around the actual piercing itself, so I never kept that. But like I say, further down the line, far into the future, I will actually try again. Like I say, it will have to be a point in my life where it fits in well with whatever's going on. Like, for instance, at the moment, obviously my work is fine with me having big holes in my ears and my nose, but I don't know how well they would take to me suddenly having a big 4 or 5 inch plate in my lip. I don't know. This will be much further down the line when I'm much more securely set up and perhaps don't rely on works as much as I do now. So yeah, that's obviously quite a way off. That's the first of my literally only 2 other piercings that I have planned. The other is something I've actually had before, and that is nipple piercings. Don't know how far down you can see, down here somewhere. I have had nipple piercings before, and I have had them stretched in the past. In fact, my nipples were the very first piercings I ever had when I think I was 15 when I got them pierced. What are you doing, madams? Yeah, I was 15 when I got them pierced, and I subsequently stretched them up to, I think at the biggest they were 8 millimeters, if I remember rightly. And I don't think I would have been able to get them much bigger than that, because I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, and I stretched them too fast. And and the tissue itself quite well thinned out, and sorry, and the tissue itself on the nipples actually quite well thinned out. But regardless, I had planned on stretching them much bigger. And then I went to a music festival, and I like my heavy metal, and I enjoy moshing. And we'll see if you can guess what happened next. I had a rather unpleasant experience where in the middle of a mosh pit, one of them was actually ripped out completely. And that was one of the more painful experiences of my entire life. It was amusing at the time, I won't lie. It wasn't something that I was particularly concerned about. It just hurt a lot. And obviously it meant I only had one nipple piercing, which I kept in for a little while longer. And eventually I did take that piercing out as well, just because I didn't like being unbalanced. And since then, I have actually had them pierced multiple different times since then. I haven't put much effort into stretching them. Currently, they're both empty. I have no piercings in them at all. But I have had them pierced at different angles, at slightly different places, just experimenting and seeing what I like. I actually once tried, I had them pierced horizontally, and I intentionally wore very, very long jewellery in them, so it would twist, so that the way the jewellery would slowly twist around. And I just wanted to try and see if I could actually, realign the piercings. I wanted to see if I could make them twist so they would actually then heal completely vertically. I don't know why. It was just a little experiment to see if it would work, and it sort of did. They did eventually more or less twist about a 45-degree angle, and that's how they would naturally sit with regular jewellery in. And I was kind of surprised that they actually even worked that much. But that was a very interesting little experiment that I'll probably never repeat again. But I'm glad I did that just to see if it would work, and apparently it seems to work. If anyone's interested in trying that, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but yeah, it's something a little bit different, I suppose, if someone's ever bored and fancies trying something stupid. But yeah, so come the time when I actually do have them done again, I'm actually undecided whether or not I will go with vertical piercings or horizontal piercings. And again, I do plan on stretching them up very big, but I plan on going a slightly different route as to just the regular piercing and stretching route. I plan on, noisy cat, I plan on actually having them scalpeled, simply because, again, it's for the experience. I have never had a piercing scalpeled or punched. I've never done either. But I have never had a piercing scalpeled, and I just want the experience. I want to see what exactly is involved in everything from the setup to the actual procedure itself to the healing process. And also, in theory, if I go to an experienced artist, it should also give me more scope to actually stretch, just because of the way it will be able to be done. It should give me more scope for actual stretching them further down. I don't know how big I would start with them. I would actually quite like to start with them a reasonably large size. I don't know exactly how big, maybe if it's possible. I don't even know how large is possible to start with, but possibly even starting with them something like a 1/2 inch or even a 3/4 inch, somewhere in that range, if it's possible to do. It's something I will have to actually speak to an artist about further down the line. And now she's chewing up boxes. Brilliant. And yeah, obviously the plan would then be to stretch them up bigger still. Excuse me, sorry. Still got the tail end of this cold. But yeah, so the plan would be to continue to stretch it up slightly further still. Slightly further still. I always had this idea of having vertical stretch nipples and then stretching them up to an enormous size. Again, I was fantasizing of having sort of 3 to 4 inch sized stretch nipples. So, which would, I think at that size, it would be much more comfortable to have vertical nipples, because then obviously the jewelry would hang down rather than sticking out like that. So it would hang down, and it would actually be more flat at least with the just with my body. But I highly doubt that would ever happen. I don't think I'd ever be able to get them that size. But you never know. You never know. But I think at the very least, I would like to try to stretch them to around the inch mark, maybe an inch to an inch and a quarter. So a similar sort of size to my septum, maybe around 32 millimeters. But that would be, yeah, that'll have to be obviously after I've actually spoken to an artist and had them scalpeled further down the line, which again, that will probably be quite a way in the future. But yeah, I say I mean, again, I haven't seen too many people with very large, what are you doing? I haven't seen too many people with very large nipples. There's a couple of people I've spoken to online via Instagram and the likes that have around the inch mark. And there's another gentleman who I used to speak to a long time ago on the BME website. Don't sit my foot. And who he actually managed to stretch his to, he almost got them, if I remember correctly, to about 1.5 inch. I don't think he was quite got them to 1.5 inch. And they were absolutely enormous. And his were horizontal. And he said himself that made it quite difficult wearing things like shirts and that sort of thing, just because of how far they would stick out. That was what gave me the idea of trying it vertically, sorry. So that if they were to get very big, they would lay a lot flatter against the body. But yeah, so that's it. That's all of the more, I say normal, admittedly not particularly normal piercings. What are you doing? They're not particularly normal, but the supposedly more normal, more likely to happen piercings. But yeah, I will make a further video at some point in the future about what I will loosely call experimental piercings, which are things I have thought about over the years, just to see exactly what would happen and if they would work out. But they are things that I would never ever recommend to anybody. A lot of them are potentially quite risky, and I have a very slim chance of actually healing, or healing comfortably at least. But yeah, I will save that for another video. I've actually been talking for a lot longer than I expected I would, so I will call this quits here, and I will speak to you all again soon. Goodbye for now, hope you've enjoyed the video, and see you soon.